This is the worst time to do a podcast because the Australian Open is on right now. And last time I checked, Tiafoe just lost the fourth set after having set points. But we are still here because we committed to doing this.
There you go.
And I started training again, and I have so many things I want to talk about. And so the first...
I actually want to hear about it.
About what?
About your training.
So there's this guy, he loves playing in the morning. I have to play at 5 a.m. in the morning. So everyone, this is 9 p.m. I have to play at 5 in the morning. This guy loves playing first thing in the morning. He's 51 years old. This guy from Africa, from Angola, Africa. And he looks like he's like jacked and ripped. Black guys don't crack. It's amazing. These guys always look so good. And he used to be on Team Africa as a pro. He was a professional player on the Satellite and Challenger Tour. When he was younger, he traveled the world from age 15 to 25.
So cool.
Lots of ATP points. Played like people on the tour that I mean, back then you would know the names. And so super awesome to kind of play a person who was a really like a pro player. And so he's excited because I beat him the first time he played last week. And he was like, I haven't lost anyone here. And I was like, well, let's go. Let's start training. You should play in the Masters. And he's going to play in the Masters. So he's like, all right, I got to start training for this Masters tournament in February. So we're going to play, and he loves. And I'm like, so what time can you play? He's like, morning. And I was like, all right, like 6, 7. He's like 5. And I'm like, fuck me. So that's what's happening.
Sure. Where'd you meet this guy?
So I just got connected. Like, you go to a club, a brand new city, and I'm just like the guy who just, messaged the pros. I'm like, who's the pro around here? And then I'm like, hey, here's my level. Here's what I'm looking for. Who can you connect me with?
Uh-huh.
And I told this guy, anyone who's a club pro, and Val, you're a club pro. So I reached out to 2 clubs, and one club, I won't say who, but you'll know. I even went to their club for an assessment. I've been at their club, the tournaments at their club. I've been talking to them for a while, saying I'm coming, I want to play. I've been sending emails, being like, who can I connect with? I will pay for coaching and training. Silence. And then I say one message to the pro, this other guy, and the guy is just like on it and responsive and connecting me. He hit with me one afternoon for free. Like, he's just, this super nice guy.
Can I guess? Can I guess the club that did respond to you? I'm assuming the club that went silent has the 3-letter acronym. And I'm assuming the club that responded to you, based on your location, I would say probably a Forza.
No. I haven't even reached out to Forza. This is the club I'm a member at, Edgemont Athletic. They have tennis courts. They have 3 indoor tennis courts.
Okay.
And the tennis pro there was a professional squash player. So he's switched and like best in Canada, traveled the world, paid to be a pro squash player. And he just said, I gave up squash. I want to pick up tennis. And so he wants to train and get good. He's my age. And he's got the body I want. He's 210. He's 6'3", 210. I'm like, I need to lose 15, 20 pounds. That's what I want. I want to be 6. I want to be 6'3", 210 because shit hurts when you're this big.
Yeah.
And so anyways, so I was like, I told him, I was like, good for you, man. Like, I'm paying and playing more at this club because you responded and you just connected me to people and everyone was super friendly. And this other club, I'm still trying to get it, because I want to play at the club because the tournament's there.
Business 101.
I swear they actually don't want me to play there because I think they just make more money having like a bunch of kids on the courts, and they don't actually really care.
This is a topic for a whole other podcast. 100% just knowing the ins and outs of tennis and understanding the business side of tennis. There's a lot of clubs out there that don't actually even allow private lessons anymore. There's a club in Vancouver that literally banned their coaches from coaching privates because the club has an 800-person wait list. And for them, they need to pack the courts with as many players as possible. So for them, private lessons are a waste of utilization, and it's not as big of a moneymaker as you would have for group lessons.
I think this club may be in the same train. I'm literally like, I will pay someone, please. I want to do some training, and just like nothing. Anyways, let's get into. So today, everyone, we're going to do some more advanced stuff. So you gotta. And when I say advanced, I don't think this isn't for people who are a 3.0, a 4.0. It's advanced thinking around tennis. And your body is a reaction to your brain. If you tell your brain something, if you tell yourself something on the court, you're more likely to do it. Oh, I even got over this hurdle where, like, Amanda, she's 3.5, and so I would treat her like a 3.5. And as a result, I wouldn't tell her to do certain things when we're playing doubles that I would say to you. And then she would get frustrated. She's like, I want more direction. I'm like, can you handle it? And stupid me, that was a limiting belief on my thought that when in our last tournament, I treated her like you, she actually executed sometimes, not all the time, but it's better to try to execute something with some direction than not. So when I say advanced, we're going to do some advanced thinking, and we're going to get into like the granularities of if you're a right-handed player playing a right-handed player versus a left-handed player versus two lefties versus a righty. Who are you? Are you the lefty playing a righty or the righty playing a lefty? Because things change based on these dynamics and the nuances of like little moments in tennis matches. Rude. 5 sets. This is one of the great things I think is so interesting about tennis. Let me see if this has ever happened to you. It's happened to me a couple times. Rude won in 5 sets, and he lost more. He won less points, lost more points, won less games. He won less games than the other guy, and still won the 5-set match.
I feel like it's a very pointed question, Grant, because you know exactly when that happened to me. Club Champs Finals against our buddy Mike. I lost.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
So when I beat Mike in the finals for Club Lakeview Ice Club Champs, if you recall, I lost the first set. I barely squeaked out the second set, and then I won in the tiebreaker. And when you actually calculated the points, or the games rather, you were like, you actually lost more than you won.
This is what's so interesting about tennis, because hockey, it's accumulation, basketball, accumulation, football, accumulation, baseball, accumulation. There's very few sports where there's like cutoffs, and you could lose the first set 6-0, win the second set 7-6, win the third set 7-6. Therefore, the other guy won 6, 6, and 6, which you would think they would win. And yet you can lose. And it's because of these like important moments. And that's where I think advanced and the pros, where it's just moments, important points that can change win or lose. And so the advanced players really tune into these moments. And so that's what we're going to hopefully talk about today. The first one.
Sure, Grant. So real quick, though, because I want to make sure this point doesn't get lost. First of all, about the advanced thinking, 100%. The sort of the argument that I've heard for so many years, what comes first? Is it technique or is it tactics? And admittedly, I still go back and forth. I really do believe tactics is first. Because if you don't have, before you even hit the ball or make contact, you got to figure out what are we doing? Whether it's getting the ball over the net or whatever. But you got to create a tactic first before you make contact with the ball. I personally, and again, this is my own perhaps shortcoming, I still struggle with the tactics preceding technique. Because for me, if you really can't hit a ball, you can tell yourself tactically, I want to do X, Y, and Z. But if you can't hit a ball, if you can't make contact with the ball, there needs to be, for me anyway, some levels of some base, just a simple layer of ability, of competence, before you're actually able to say, okay, well, now this is what we want to do. But I think theoretically, tactics does precede it. And I will actually challenge myself, and I'll say this, I agree with you. Even at the 3.0, the 3.5, as you know, those levels, you want to start thinking about those things. Because I see so much, so many times on the court, you take so many lessons learning how to hit proper ground strokes, proper shots, you're learning how to hit those shots, but you just don't spend any time on the tactics. Why are we hitting those shots? What's the point of hitting those shots? And I don't think it's one or the other, by the way. I think it's in tandem. I think it should go together. You learning your technique and also thinking out a plan of how do I beat, so and so. So I think it's a really good thing that, especially with Amanda, someone like Amanda who wants to learn more, give her all the information, but you also don't want to obviously overload her. But 100%, to start working, it's never too early to start thinking about tactics. You just got to make sure that there's obviously a bottom layer of technique.
I think it's steps because like you said, there's no point in you learning the game of tennis if you don't even know how to hit a ball over the net. Like, you first got to learn how to just hit a ball over the net. But then,
sorry, I was going to say,
well,
I think there's a leg. I was just going to say, there's a perfect example. Perfect example is I actually had one of my classes covered by another pro, and a few days ago I received some negative feedback, or just for opportunities, because that pro had them doing certain things. One of the things was the I formation on, I think maybe we'll talk about it later, doing the I formation when serving. So the double C, that serving is doing the I formation. They don't even know how to place their serves. So, it's great. Like, that was the feedback. They were like, we don't know how to place our serves. So it's great to start thinking about this stuff and working on it. They're like, we would have much rather just spend more time on learning how to actually place our serve rather than doing these advanced, tactical double strategies.
Yeah, totally agree. There's levels of when to enter certain tactics or techniques even. Like, there's no point in you trying to learn a kick serve if you can't even learn probably a slice or a flat serve. And then, but the thing that I love is that, and that's what we hope to achieve with all this channel, is I hope to beat people who are maybe even faster, fitter, technically better, because I'm smarter. And you see that all the time, where even at the club level, you got your friend, who, the way they hit the ball, you're like, they don't even know how to hit topspin, but they never lose. They always win because they know how to beat people.
Can I please tell you this? The amount of business that I have received in the last 6 to 9 months from people, including Amanda, a lot of Amanda's friends, there's at least 6 to 8 ladies that come to me for private lessons. And when I say, what are we working on? They say, we want to beat Linda. And so Linda's she takes first of all, she's a pickleball player, which, love there's already the versatility there, but she's actually, I would say, probably a pickleball player first, maybe, but arguably, but regardless, her technique, and by the way, I say this with the utmost respect for Linda, to your point, she doesn't have the prettiest technique. Like, when you actually watch, when I run light ball drills, when I'm running any kind of technical drills, people like Amanda's friends look much prettier as tennis players. Like, when Amanda hits her forehands or her backhands, like there's this like almost like stroke of genius where I'm like, wow, you started recently, you look really good. And then come match points or match time, and none of them can beat Linda. So the amount of business that I've garnered, people coming to me hoping to beat Linda, to your point, it's not necessarily about technique. It's how do you just win more matches?
Yeah. Okay, so my first question is, and it's interesting to think about how much thought should go into this one moment, the first point of your service game. And so they did this study that showed, if you win the first point of your service game versus lose the first point of your service game, you have a 30% greater chance of winning that game. That's a big deal. That you hold 9 times out of 10 versus 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, just from winning the first point. And so the question is, what should you do on the first point of your service game. And to start off, let's do the most typical situation, right-handed player versus right-handed player, because we're going to go through all the different variants for all the people listening. But different, because it's different. It's absolutely different. If you're right-handed, playing a right-handed player, it's different than if you're right-handed playing a lefty, and if you're a lefty playing a righty, and lefty playing a lefty, because you're on the deuce side, and there's all these different variations. So what do you think people should do on the first point of their service game?
Win it. First of all, first and foremost, before I even get to the actual shot selection or the tactic behind it, I'd say something that doesn't get talked about often enough is actually having a plan for not just the first shot, it's the second shot, and potentially even the third shot. So it's almost like a chess match, planning out. And again, this is more advanced thinking, because I see this so much at the club level of like, hey, you go to serve, and at the very basic level, players think, okay, what serve am I going to hit? Or they'll think, don't miss. Or I have to, like, they just think of all these kinds of thoughts. So for me, the formula is, number one, get your first serve in, right? Set the pace, dictate the terms, like get yourself off the right foot, get the first serve in, but have a plan, an execution plan for what are we doing, whatever. So for me, it's number one is get the ball in. Number two is most likely, I would say either hit your first favorite serve, or I would say hit a serve either out wide to take him off the court to get a ball back probably down the middle, or hit down the tee, which is again righty to righty. That's their backhand. So hit a hard first serve down the tee, force them into their weakness. Probably gives up a short ball, but this is where, for me, thinking about the next shot or two is very important. So for me, for example, one of the things that I think about, and again, maybe not necessarily the first serve, but for me, go out wide, whether it's a slice or not, get them slightly off the court, and be ready for that second short ball to go look for that forehand cross court right away. So to open up the court and then follow the ball in. That'd be kind of like my first combo that I go to is a righty to righty. What are your thoughts?
So it's not forehand cross court, because that would be back if you served out wide as a right-hander. If you served out wide to their forehand, your second ball is not going to be a forehand cross court back to the same corner that they're standing in.
Sorry, let me rephrase. When I say cross court, if they're returning down the middle, or typically it would be just left of center in my mind, I'm looking to run around and hit basically away from them. So I'm thinking cross court, could be down the line. But visually for me, it's basically if you serve out wide and you take them off the court, look for that forehand to go the other way. So that's what I'm looking for that forehand.
Yeah. So for ease of understanding, you've got, if you serve out wide, if you're a right-hander, you've got basically two plays, or you have a few plays. You either serve a person out wide, open up the court, and then your next ball, you hit into the open court. Whether, based on where they return it, it could be all sorts of different shots. You're just in your mind, you'll be like, okay, I want to get this person out wide, get them off the court, and then I want to hit to the open court. And then based on, it could be a backhand cross court, it could be a forehand inside out, or it could be a forehand down the line. Then that's one option. Second option, you serve tee to their backhand because maybe it's really weak and it's likely gonna, and then now they're in the middle of the court. So then it's like, okay, my second ball is just gonna go to the backhand because it's weak, and maybe I'm hoping because their backhand is weak, I'm gonna get a weak return. Where if their forehand's really strong and I go out wide, I might get a hard second shot to hit. Where even though they're not off the court, it might be that much easier of a ball to then hit to their backhand side. Or if everyone can imagine a person standing, most people when they return, they're standing, on or straddling the single side line.
Yep.
And so if they move into the court, their body momentum is moving to their left. They're moving in. And so if you hit to their backhand side, you're actually hitting towards their momentum. Now, if their backhand's really weak, that's a good strategy. hit to the backhand, and hit to the backhand again. If the backhand is okay, then but you don't want to, but their forehand may be amazing, then you could hit to the backhand, get the momentum going to their left, and then go right to actually attack their forehand and hopefully get them cross-footed, hit behind them, because stopping and starting is difficult to do. And if you get a weakish return, you can come in and hit it. The third option you have is serve and volley, of which, again, you serve out wide, you come to the net, you want to hit a short angle cross court probably, because if you hit a deep angle, that they might be able to hit a running backhand, which is still tough, but you could hit either a crisp volley deep or a short angle. If you then serve down the tee, your best volley, because you're taking time away, is more likely to, it's harder for them to stop and start and go back in the other direction. And so then you could hit a volley and your body momentum is going in that direction. It's easier to hit good volleys when you volley in the direction of your body. So then you could hit serve tee, first volley back behind them. That if I was right-handed,
I will say
I would, like you said, I would pick my strength because I want to win this first point. So what do I feel most comfortable with? Is it serve volley? Is it serve into ground stroke? Do I have a good out wide serve? And then do I go there? Just pick a good strategy and then think through it and execute. Because the one thing I struggle with is being too rigid in the plan. Because if I go serve out wide, inside out forehand to the other side, and they hit a really wide return, then I'm not doing an inside out. And now my visualization's kind of screwed. And so that's why it's like, if you just think, get him out wide, go to the open court, get him out wide, volley to the open court, put him down the middle and hit behind them. That hit behind them could be whatever type of shot. That's a more executable plan no matter what happens.
Yep, no, for sure. I'll also add, this is why, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in a bit in terms of drills you can run, but this is why it's so important to practice different drills, different combos. What if, combo number one, serve wide, this is the ball that comes back, hit a ball, to the open court. Or what if the ball comes in deeper? Or what if the ball comes, so there's so many different combos you can practice. So at any point in time, you can kind of pull out of the bag, whichever combo you need. One thing I will say, just be careful with, just in general, if you are playing against someone who's a very strong backhand, or at least a very strong backhand return, unless you have a really big and accurate first serve, I always recommend being careful, or at least being ready for it, serving down the tee on the due side, because what's going to end up happening is, if they are really good at returning with their backhand, they're going to probably neutralize it, but they're going to go right down the middle to your backhand. So now basically you're now stuck in the middle of the court, basically hitting a +1 on your backhand, and they're already in the middle. So they're already basically. So that's one thing I've learned just from my experience of seeing this 1,000 times over. If they're really good on their backhand and they're a good returner on their backhand, just be ready, because you're not opening up any court. They're already recovered, and they're going to return to your backhand, and now you're basically stuck in the middle round.
So it's like, if you have a really amazing serve, but again, I would go, if their backhand is weak, then that's a good option. But if it's like, no, they have a good backhand, and I don't know how good my serve is going to be, then pushing people off the court to an open court, I mean, that's just a good strategy all the time. And then if you're like serve and volley, statistically, it's really hard to just pass someone. That person has just got up from a changeover or just finished warm up and hasn't returned a ball yet. So to be able to come up with a great return that's really hard to volley or as a pass or whatever is not statistically likely. So
I'm going to ask you, what kind of serve are you hitting on a serve and volley?
Spin. I'm putting spin, slice, or kick because I want it more time to get into the net. And it's harder to hit a clean ball off a spinny ball. Therefore, it's hard to hit a clean passing shot winner off a spinning ball or a lob, a spinning ball. Okay, so now let's go to there. Let's go to
Usually more time to come to the net as well.
Okay, Let's go to the other variation. Let's go righty playing a lefty. So now imagine this, you're in the deuce court. The lefty's forehand is in the middle. Their backhand is out wide. What is likely the best strategy against a lefty? As a lefty myself, it's probably go to their backhand out wide, because not only are you pushing them off the court, you're probably going to a weaker ball, and therefore you get to hit an even better second ball into the open court. That's why, like lefties, we work on that backhand return a lot, because we're just going to get destroyed. Like, we know it's coming. Like, first point of the match, I'm like, this person's going to my backhand, pretty much. I can see from warm up, probably. I'm like, do they have a slice at all? Yeah, they're going to my backhand on the first point. Well, I better hit a good backhand cross court return.
And as a right-handed player, as soon as that ball comes back, well, before the ball even comes back, I'm looking for that inside-out forehand right away.
Yeah,
as a plus one.
And that's something that I'm thinking about. As I played this guy the other day, because I hadn't played on hardcore in over a month, and I only played like twice. It was my second time in like a month. And so what I noticed is my reaction and response time landing off my serve was really slow. And that's something to work on, where you serve, you land, and instantly you're moving to the next ball. And if you're wanting to hit a forehand, you want to land and boom, instantly open up and assume it's either going to come a little bit to your left if you're a right-hand player. So you want to open up so you can get to that forehand. And if it ends up going cross court, boom, you just land and go in that direction. And so I think people serve and they kind of just like, you land and you just kind of stand there. It's like you serve and you put on 2 feet and you're just standing there waiting, versus land and then instantly move back or move forward or move to the side. I think that's something that you can go to the gym and you can. I remember when I was at Worlds, this women Argentinians team, they had a drill where they would just stand on 2 feet, do a as big as possible 2-foot jump forward, and then run back with their 2 feet back to where they started, and do that over and over again, because it was the idea of jumping explosively and then quickly moving their feet back, because that is the best way to respond after you serve for the next ball.
Do you know who has, I would say, what kind of player has the worst problem with that? And that is someone who has a very good serve. And I've noticed this a lot about really big servers, people who have a really strong serve. Oftentimes they're used to winning points off of their serve. They're used to, and I'm guilty of this. I'm actually horribly pathetic at this. I love serving, just intuitive. I serve and I admire my serve. I look at how good that serve is, like the placement, the pop, the spin, whatever. And I've noticed a lot about this. This is so common with big servers when they're used to winning easy points off of returners. When they all of a sudden play someone who's a higher caliber than them, higher level than them, they're not used to getting that return. Because remember, the harder you serve, the faster the return comes in. Because the idea is they're redirecting your pace. They're not adding pace, they're redirecting your pace. And so the harder you serve, the faster, if that the return connects, is going to come back to you faster. So as soon as you land as a right-handed player, as soon as you left on your left foot, or as a lefty, as soon as you land on your right foot, to your point, you have two decisions. I'm either going to land and step in to attack the next ball, or if it's not a good enough serve, you land and you jump right back and recover behind the baseline if it's not as a hurting serve. 100%. Very underrated skill.
So back to your righty, you're playing a lefty now. It's going to be slightly different, because you want to serve out wide, because it's going to go to their backhand, and that's going to more likely cough up a worse return, because most people's backhands are not as good as their forehands. But that open court, when you hit there, is to their forehand. So do you still want to go there? I would say yes, because attacking a forehand, even if they get there, is that next ball may not be great, and then you go back to that backhand. So you might have a backhand out wide, hit to the open court, whether that be a backhand cross court or a forehand down the line. They'll be running there, and they'll maybe, if they don't get the ball back, great, you won. If they get the ball back, then just go right back to the open court, back to the backhand, and then come in. And potentially come in even on that first ball that you attack, that you hit the open court, but you could vary it up. The other option is you surprise them with a serve down the tee on your first point, if you really love that serve, and then you attack the backhand thereafter, which wrong foots them and potentially serve down the middle. I was righty, serve down the middle, likely get a ball back down the middle, and then hit your forehand cross court, which is a really consistent ball for most people. You just kind of run around it if need be, forehand cross court to their backhand, and then come in or just pound away at the backhand. That would be what I would do if I was a righty playing lefty.
Great option. One more thing I'll add. As a righty who plays lefties, granted, you know this as a left-handed player. What's your dream scenario when you're playing a right-handed player? What kind of rally do you want to get with them? Like into what kind of rally? What does it look like?
Yeah, I want to get my forehand to their backhand.
Bingo. So my goal is for that not to happen. So if I'm serving out wide to a lefty, though it's your backhand, chances are you're going to return either middle or maybe even cross court. And if you return cross court, I would actually say going down the line is great because no matter what, they're still taking a running forehand. But going back cross court is not a bad idea because for me, it's my dream situation, my dream scenario. And I actually had this happen to me a few months ago. I was playing a lefty, and I told myself, no matter what happens, every single shot is going to go to their backhand. That's it. And I actually won the match because of that. Because it wasn't a matter of quality. It was just every single shot is going to their backhand. I'm not letting them dictate their forehand to my backhand. So one option.
Everyone always asks me, like, how do you beat a lefty? And I go, well, it's the same way that we would try to beat you and you would try to beat us. Attack the backhand. If the backhand is weaker for both parties, whoever can hit to the person's backhand more often will win. Yeah, I get to have your backhand be out wide on the ad serve. And and this is the lefty advantage. You don't see my ball a lot.
I was just going to say.
That's the lefty advantage. That's the lefty advantage that people, it's not like strategically difficult. Same for both people. You're literally both trying to execute the same thing. I just get to have your backhand out wide on a more likely pressure point, and you probably don't see my spins as often, so you may not be as good at it. But strategically, it's the same.
Yeah. I will say that was facing a lefty, the one thing that I personally struggle with, which I think a lot of players struggle with, is a thin. It's just the fact, I find that I have to, when I'm playing a lefty, I have to watch the ball. I have to respect the ball so much more. I have to watch it so much more. Because I find with a righty, again, because I've seen the spin, I've seen that ball so many times, I'm able to cheat a little bit where the ball comes in and I can kind of go, okay, then I can hit. With a lefty, like when I'm playing you, for example, when you're serving, I'm making sure that I'm looking at that spot where I make contact, way past contact. Because if I don't watch it all the way into my racket, it's shank. It's shank. So I find that for sure. Strategy-wise, same thing. Totally.
Now, if you like serve and volley, this one, if I was a righty, serve out wide to the backhand, it's very hard to hit backhand passing shots. Again, assuming people's backhand's worse than their forehand. Serve out wide, come in, short angle, cross court, point could be over, even if it's not. Then you volley the next ball from their forehand back to their backhand side, and you win it on the second volley. That's what I would do. Now, what's interesting is a lefty playing a righty. It's on the deuce side. It's different because your backhand is down the tee. So, I mean, you watch Rafael Nadal, and where is he serving the majority of the time on his first serve in the first point of a service game? Down the tee, body backhand or tee. And then from there, he then gets that ball, probably returned down the middle, and then he just starts pounding away on the backhand, cross court in the ad side. And that's typically the move for a lefty, is to serve body backhand and tee, wait for that ball just kind of to come down the middle, or because when people return, they likely hit it across their body and it comes inside in backhand. And so it's just right into your forehand. And then you just pound that forehand away cross court. That's the typical one.
Also, like when speaking from experience as a lefty, when you're serving and as a righty, I'm returning on the do side. When you're, especially if it's a slice down the tee and it goes away from my body, it's just a wicked ball to return. Like it's such a, hitting on the, it's hitting on the outside too. Just hitting that slice out wide away from my body on the backhand. I have nightmares returning that serve.
Now, if you're a sheaf who like just assumes I'm hitting to his backhand all the time and just cheats like crazy, I'm gonna and I've played you enough times. My first serve may be flat out wide to surprise a person, because even if they get it back, I'm gonna go forehand cross court or forehand inside into your backhand.
Which is so funny you bring it up, because we played doubles on Monday, and same thing. I've hit enough kick serves that he cheats because he loves that. He
runs around everything.
And so he cheats so much. I've actually aced him twice or three times on Monday just because I went flat tee, and he's nowhere to be found.
Yeah. Okay, and then so the final one is if you're a lefty playing a lefty. Now this one is lefties don't like playing lefties either.
True.
Because you don't play a lefty that often. It's because we're facing different spins than what's typical to us. And so if I'm playing a lefty, then I am likely going to do flatter kick out wide to their backhand. I would just do what a righty does. I'm going to go out wide to their backhand and then go attack their forehand cross court. Just get them off the court, get a weaker return probably. Or if I see them cheating, then I'll go down the tee and it's going to be their forehand, but I'll then go back to their backhand, do an inside out, a forehand right to their backhand, assuming their backhand's weaker. All of this is assuming the backhand weaker. It's like, and then basically, when I play someone who, like this guy Jordan, who was on Team Canada with me, and so his backhand he runs around his forehand, hit it back. His backhand is like a baseball bat. He just fucking just cranks on it and just hits things all day. And so it's like playing a lefty against him. So all of this to say, when you play people, first, what is their strength and weakness? And then really think through the strategy. And as we're saying, it's variations of open up the court, hit to the other court in your second ball, then go back to the other side. And I've been watching the pros strategically, and so many of it, like Sabalenka, her strategy really is, I'm watching her right now, it's just hit hard balls to the open court. And then every now and then the drop shot, but otherwise it's hit hard balls to the open court. Is that a down the line? Is that a cross court? It's based on where the player hit the ball to her. But her thing is hit a hard ball to the open court, and if it's a good enough ball, the person's not going to get there, or it's going to end up copying something up that she can put it away at the net, or it's a serve volley, or it's a hit behind someone. And there you go. There's a strategy.
This takes us back to our first episode. We talked about, what do you do in a warm-up? What do you do in the 5-10 minute warm-up that you have? Literally assess the situation that you have in front of you. What are they good at? What are they avoiding? Are they avoiding overheads? Like some people that we know, you got to assess the warm-up, assess what's going on, read the situation. And ultimately, to your point, if the backhand is stronger than the forehand, then everything we just talked about may not be applicable. For the average person, for the majority, their back is definitely weaker. And these could be good strategies.
All right. So the next situation that is a common one is in a rally, whether the person hits a slice to your backhand, so the ball is nice and low, or you're standing really deep, they hit a cross-court ball and you got to run to it. And by the time you get there, the ball's already bounced and it's on its way back down again. And so whether, for whatever reason, you're hitting a backhand and the ball is low, it's below the net. Like when you're about to make contact, it's below the net level and you're hitting a backhand.
You're close
These
to
are
net.
Tough balls. If it's a slice, you're likely inside the baseline. If it's a ball you're running for that's low, you're probably not standing really far back. If you're standing really far back, and the ball's already got down below net level, you clearly aren't moving properly because you should have been moving in, like you're already behind the court. You should be moving forward into the ball to like hit it at the peak or on the
I just want to
rise.
make sure.
Most times
I
it's
want to make sure there's not a volley situation where you're at the net. You're still somewhat back closer to
so not a volley. So this is not a volley. The ball has bounced and it's either just a low slice that you're receiving or it's bounced, and by the time you get there, you're running to it, it's just below the net level, and you're trying to do something with this ball so that you don't make a really easy ball for that next person to put away. Because on that low ball to the backhand, and I had a few of those the other day against this guy, and in trying to go for shots, so my execution wasn't very good, which is a totally different thing, but I think my choice of what I was trying to do was good. And this is what I want to talk about is like, what do you do with this ball? So what do you think? So you're receiving a slice, it's a low backhand, you're receiving, it's a ball, you're hitting it low. What do you do to get back in the point? And maybe that's the first little tidbit I would say is you're not in an offensive position. You are in a defensive position, and your goal is to get the ball back in, to allow them to miss, rule number one, but to get the ball in such a way back that it doesn't allow for them to hit an easy winner, and it's not to try to hit a winner in this situation. So how would you break down what to do?
Great question. So the best part about tennis for me is that every single question can be answered with, it depends. But for me, in this case, it depends. So to your point, number one is assessing what is our goal? What is the tactic that we're trying to achieve? So in this case, it's get back in the point. Get back in the point to a place where you can actually hit a ball that is a neutralizing ball to get yourself back in the rally, or at least to in a position where you can essentially counterpunch or counterattack. One thing that you could do, and again, so first of all, because the ball is below the net, I advise you have to find a way to speed up the racket speed, which would require a little bit more wrist action. So it's not because the ball is it's not sitting in the strike zones where you're kind of able to use your hips and use your kinetic chain to get through it. You're going to have to accelerate with your wrist to create that sort of that spin and that acceleration there. So there's a few things you can do. I would, number one, try potentially to go cross court deep. So create enough topspin and go cross court deep, which will allow me to get time by time to either follow the ball in if I'm able to, and if not, recover back. And again, get back in the point. Second thing you could do is you could hit same thing, accelerate by hit more of a spinny shot short wide, which then would force them to get to the ball, and it's now out of their strike zone, right? The other thing and this is usually what sometimes I think about too, is what kind of slice is it? Because you said a slice to your backhand. Because something that a lot of people don't know this, but when a player slices the ball on their backhand, the slice that I'm talking about is the penetrating slice. It's a flat slice. It's not the drop shot slice. When you hit a penetrating slice, that's more of a thing of a drive slice. It's backspin. But once it lands, it actually converts to topspin, which makes it kick off a little bit and go faster. And so oftentimes, I actually love that shot, drive slice, because they think it's going to be because they see it's going to be a lower shot. They think it's going to slow down, but it actually speeds up and accelerates into them. So whenever I see a slice, I tend to slice back just because I find it's really hard for me personally, get my wrist over on time. But I'd say slice back cross court. And again, just neutralize the ball, not in the sense of like get it back to a low slice. So then they have to struggle with that low ball. But I'd say for me, those would be the first three shots.
Okay, so for everyone listening, a couple clarification points on what Val said, because I know this is what he meant. It's not that a backhand slice accelerates when it hits the ground like a topspin ball. A topspin ball truly accelerates when it hits the ground. But when a backspin ball hits the ground, it doesn't go backwards because the momentum of the ball has it continue to go forward. And it does on hard court and play, check. The ball checks when it hits and then starts to change the direction. But on carpet and on grass, it skids and stays backspin. I played carpet the other day And that was the first thing I noticed was like, holy shit, the ball is still spinning backwards when it comes off a carpet. And that was like a big difference. And so that's a whole surface thing. So a ball does slowly start to go forward and still move forward. It does slow down, but it doesn't go backwards and stop completely.
It
does continue to go forward.
Did I say stop?
No, you said accelerates, but topspin accelerates. This one, it doesn't get faster.
Because
it does slow down.
Because I've done this 1,000 times. Because if you actually slice through that ball, and it's a low penetrating slice, once it lands, oftentimes people will actually they have a propensity to step into the ball, thinking that it's gonna kind of maintain its speed, but it actually does, because once it grips and it changes, the spin changes, the person normally gets jammed. That's the first reaction they're not expecting.
Yes, sort of. I mean, most people when they get slices, they don't move up to the ball fast enough because they're expecting a ball like a topspin ball. Put it in the comments. So this is physics 101. The ball definitely slows down. Like if it goes in at 50 miles an hour with backspin and it checks, it's not going at 60 miles an hour after like a topspin ball. It's going at 40 miles an hour. It's for sure slow. Like in my opinion, and maybe this people, some physics people can comment on what happens to the miles per hour of the ball's trajectory after it hits the ground. I think it definitely does slow down. And you do have to people definitely just misjudged how to react off a slice. So here's a couple rules of thumb before I get into like some specific shots that this one coach showed me, and I was like, makes so much sense. If a ball is hit to you with slice, the easiest shot to hit back is a slice. If the ball comes to you topspin, the easiest ball to hit back is a topspin. If the ball is low, the best ball to hit back is a low ball. And so just right there, like you start to narrow down your options of what to do with that ball. And then because you're in a defensive position, can I keep the ball low and deep? Or by trying to go deep, will I have to raise the ball up too much? And then it's going to bounce up and be in someone's sweet spot and I'm out of position or whatever. And so, and it's not natural because to think this, and this is something I try to remind myself to think, if someone gives you a deep ball, you want to hit a deep ball back. If someone's giving you a short angle, you don't actually want to go deep back. You want to give short angle back. If someone's giving you a low slice, you want to give a low slice back. And the trade, the best trade is to take someone's low ball and make it even lower and shorter and slower for them. Where typically in tennis, you're like harder, deeper. And when it comes to you slower or lower, you actually change your brain and go, nope, I don't need to actually go harder and deeper. Right now, I got to get it lower and slower and shorter. And that's actually the more difficult shot. And then the direction, am I going to go down the line? Am I going to go cross court? I think this is where we can now start to get into the particulars of, are you right-handed playing a right-handed, left-handed playing a left-handed, and so on. So if and I'll do lefties, and then Val, you can do righties. So if I'm a left-handed player, I am, and a righty hits a ball to my backhand side, which is on my right side of the court, the deuce side of the court is my backhand. So they maybe have hit a forehand slice, probably not. Maybe a short angle on the forehand that I'm running to, and it's now dipped down, or they've hit their own slice backhand down the line. These are maybe a backhand topspin down the line that kind of was short, and I'm running from maybe my forehand side over there. What I'm likely going to do is, if they're on their forehand side, a really underrated shot that I'm trying to think to do more of is slice low to people's forehands. It's not that easy of a ball to hit a forehand, especially to change directions on it. Because if I'm if I'm on the deuce side, I'm cross court to that righty's forehand. And for me to hit a cross court slice that's low, and for them to be able to change the direction down the line and hit a winner past my forehand, that is not easy. So what they might do, if they were smart, is they would just hit a good cross-court topspin ball back to my backhand. But at least I'm back in the play. And that's like the main thing, is to get back in the play and hopefully get a nicer topspin ball that you can, that because you're over there now, I can just hit a ground stroke, topspin across court or down the line or something, or go inside in with my forehand and go for a winner. And so if they're over there on that left-hand side, I'm learning to think about that cross-court slice to their forehand. A lot of people struggle with it, especially, and this is super advanced, which grip, and this is my first question, just quickly answer it, and then I'll go back into my scenarios. Which grip, if a person has, and we're thinking continental, semi-Western, Western, and even more extreme, continental, Eastern, continental, Eastern, semi-Western, Western. Which grip is it harder to hit a topspin forehand on a low ball?
On a low ball.
I remember when someone taught me to notice this, as this changes your strategy, is what grip do they use?
100%.
Because it's just inherently harder certain balls with different grips. And so which one is harder for a low slice, low balls? Which grip?
Oh, that would be Western?
Extreme.
Yeah,
the extreme grips, because the reason why people came up with the extreme grips is because they were clay courts and they wanted to just hit topspin ground strokes that were bouncing really high, because old school, what started was the continental is really great down low. The Eastern's really great down low, but on those high balls on clay, it was really difficult for those people to hit topspin on those balls because of their grip. And so then people with Western, think Nadal versus Federer, they were just like, yeah, high bouncing balls. Let me just rip these with my extreme grip. And so then they struggled on grass because the ball just doesn't even bounce on grass. And so if you are playing someone with an extreme Western forehand grip, keep the ball low to them on their forehand, they're going to struggle more naturally with it. So
I was trying to reverse engineer it in my head. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, what are they? Because I remember the semi-Western is really good. The extreme Western is really good at higher balls. I'm like, so reverse engineering, yeah, so for sure, Western. So that one.
So I definitely am going to do that. Like if it's a sheesh, no, I'm not. He's got like Eastern. He's just going to crank this fucking thing. So if I'm going cross court on the forehands, definitely. Or if they have a Eastern really good at those low balls on the forehand, I will then do my slice. I love my slice and my side slice. So I got that low ball and I would do a side slice to their backhand side, to a righty's backhand side that spins off the court. And then I'm just going to hit that and just immediately start moving to the middle of the court. Those are my two favorite. And I need to train myself to use the slice more. It's an underrated shot that a lot of young people don't hit. And then when you play with a lot of people, they just want to hit, big shots, big topspin shots. And especially on your backhand side, it's just not easy to hit a topspin whippy ball. You really got to get there with your feet. And so I just love to, by default, what's easier is to start hitting slices either cross court or down the line. So that's even against a lefty, because if I was a lefty against a lefty, my slice cross court is to their backhand, difficult to do. My slice down the line is to their forehand, difficult to do. So I'm doing one of those. I'm doing a low slice angle, or I'm doing a low slice down the line, and I'm getting back in the play.
As a righty, so the funny thing is I'm actually the opposite, because I actually developed a pretty nasty slice backhand, because my two-hand backhand's always been my weaker shot. So I used to always revert back to my slice. That's the first shot that I learned, is a backhand slice. For me, I actually love, especially if it's a slightly shorter backhand, slightly shorter slice or low shot to my backhand, I absolutely love the chip and charge. So I'll either slice down the line and follow the ball right in. Again, making sure I keep the ball low, because the danger is if you keep the ball high, if you let them set up. That's now, as a right-handed player, that's now their forehand, which exposes you completely and gives them so much, ability to either pass you cross court or he can lob you. But as long as you can, if I can sort of drive that slice, penetrate the air, sort of go low slice down the line, charge right away. That's my number one move. If I'll do it twice, maybe 3 times, and then I'll actually do that cross court. And again, I'll almost fake it down the line again, have them move, and then just go right at them or at their feet, and again, just wrong foot them. If it's a right-handed player that I'm playing against, this is where it differs for me. And this is actually a shot that I've started using a lot more, inspired by Alcaraz. If I'm able to somehow run around, especially because I love my inside-out forehand, if I'm able to run around the ball at all, a forehand slice. And I started using that more and more and more and more, especially if it's a right-handed player. I'll run around it. It's unconventional, but I will actually slice it with my forehand to get it to their backhand. And now it's actually spinning off the court the other way. So again, short, low, and spinning the other way if I'm able to at all run around it. But otherwise, yeah, for me, the chip and charge is probably one of my most utilized shots.
Now, for righties against righties and lefties against lefties, the old school of approaching was to approach down the line. It was like I remember that was just like, if you're going to hit an approach shot, approach down the line. Didn't even matter what side. If it's on your backhand side, you hit the backhand down the line. Forehand side, you hit a forehand down the line. And I think because of the rackets and the athleticism and the topspin, all that stuff, the shot I see the pros doing that I did not see the pros doing growing up was the backhand cross court approach slice. The backhand slice cross court, because you are now, even though you have to now cover way more court because you're hitting an approach shot on one side of the court and you're going to follow the ball and get all the way to the other side. It's because to hit to someone's backhand and to force them to change the direction on the ball and go down the line, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to be like, okay, you're coming to the net and I see a big gap. But for them to be able to hit that ball down the line, change directions on a slice that's low, and this is the other thing I think about all the time that I sometimes mess up, because we're so used to thinking deep, 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 deep. A slice approach is not supposed to be deep. It's supposed to be short, and it's supposed to force the player to have to come in, because then they have less court to bring that ball up and down on, and they have to bring that ball up, and then it's easier for you to put that volley away. So that backhand slice cross court, if you're playing someone of the same hand as you, lefty, lefty, righty, righty, is a shot that I see pros doing a ton. Tiafoe and Alcaraz, I see do a ton of this.
And something that's very, very important as well. If you're going to go right, hypothetically, and there's a time and a place for this, but if you're going to go right back to them, or if you're going to hit the ball deep, for example, it provides them less time required to get to the ball, right? Therefore, being able to recover quicker and having more options to hit the ball potentially. Hitting a low, shorter ball requires them to travel longer distance, and now they're probably hitting below the net as well, which again, it could equals the pickleball effect, where they kind of pop up with the ball, you finish the shot. The low short ball is something that I teach all the time. It's a very, very effective tool.
All right, now tomorrow, this podcast will not be up by the time I play tomorrow. So my strategy tomorrow against this guy is going to be come in the net as much as possible. I want to come to the net, practice my volleys, practice my transition game. I want to work on that. Even on the return side. Because again, statistically, the best way to win a point is at the net. You have more likely a chance to win the point either by them missing or by you putting a volley away when you're at the net. You take time away. And typically people go, yeah, easier to do as a server because you can serve and volley, or serve and then hit an approach second shot and then come in. It's not as easy as a returner. And so, but yet that could be a goal, is to be like, okay, as a returner, how can I return, prevent them from coming in the net, and get to the net myself within 2 or 3 shots? And so what do you think are the combinations or strategies to, as the returner, finish the point at the net?
So first of all, as a returner, as you're returning the ball, first of all, your job is to keep them behind the baseline. Either find a way to open up the court, which is very hard to do as a returner, or harder, I should say. Pick a target. That's whether it's deep, middle, or pick a target to keep them back behind the baseline. Once you're able to execute that strategy, the next combo for me is, and this is whether it's a right-handed player or a left-handed player, is find a way to get them to, and this is for me, it goes back to basics. Find a way to get them show them your back. Or I guess have them show you their back. So find a way to take them up, whether it's through a shorter cross-court shot. Find a way to get them moving into the doubles alley and away from it, or even just running for the ball, get him on the run, which will provide you time to either hit to the open court afterwards and then following the ball in. But ultimately, I find the easiest way is just try and get a short ball. So either overwhelm them with, depending on their skill, overwhelm them with pace, and if eventually they will cough up a shorter ball. If you can get a short ball or a shorter ball that you can attack, that is your prime opportunity to come in, whether with a down line approach or cross-court approach, etc. But just find a way to either through time and space, so get him off the court to get that shorter ball back, or overwhelm with the pace, so for them just to kind of react and get the ball up, and then you look to come in. That'd be my first strategy.
Okay, so especially when you get to higher levels, people have good serves. Yep. And so you want to allow your opponent to miss. So for the most part, you don't want to do something too risky on a return, especially on a first serve return, where you're trying to hit some angle or attack off it. So your first ball is deep down the middle. Like that's the standard return that neutralizes a serve deep down the middle. And so let's first assume that is what you first do as a returner. Hey, I want to neutralize the serve, hit a ball deep down the middle. Then what's that person going to do? They're either going to hit the ball down the middle, back down the middle, they're going to hit the ball, or they're going to hit the ball to a side. If they hit the ball down the middle, then you get to hit a cross-court ball to their weak side, because you can just maneuver yourself.
Sure.
Or if your forehand's a weapon, you can hit an inside out, inside in, whatever hand you are, and you can now start to dictate. If you hit it deep down the middle and then they just hit one down the middle back, great. They've just hit kind of a not offensive ball, and so now you can start to dictate so that you can then come in, and then you can hit that first ball to their weaker side and maybe even come in right off the bat, or hit the ball to the weaker side, wait for a weaker ball to come back, then hit your approach shot and come in. So it's like down the middle, weak side, come in, down the middle, weak side again, transition and come in. Say if you hit your ball deep down the middle and then they hit a ball to a side, then the thing I think about is, okay, I'm kind of still on defense here because they're serving and I've hit a neutralizing-ish ball down the middle, but then they've now started to dictate and go to a side for whatever reason, maybe my weak side, whatever they want to attack one side of mine, maybe my forehand, okay. So I want to hit a hard cross-court ball. Again, a simple shot that's high percentage, and if I can just hit a solid, deep cross-court ball, then I'm probably going to get cross-court ball back, and if it's good enough, then maybe it's shorter, and then maybe the third ball. So deep down the middle, hard cross court, then attack the weak side and come in. And it's like, if you're trying to return and eventually come to that to finish the point, sure, if it's a second serve and it's a weak serve, you can chip and charge or attack and charge. But that's not easy to do. And if you rule out those two options where you attack and charge and chip and charge, you're like, okay, I need to hit, like you said, hard and deep until I cough up a short ball, then hit that approach and come in. And then that's all you have to think about is just hard and deep, hard and deep, hard and deep, then find my ball and hit an approach.
Keep in mind as well, what's the value of returning deep down the middle?
They can't hit angles as easily.
That's it. So for me, even because So this is something that I'm actually playing with right now in my own game, even just I'm exploring. It's just the psychology of returning, because I find, I don't know, I'm not 100% sold on the conventional approach to returning, but something that I'm currently playing with in my own head is just like, hey, is there a poker approach to the fact that, like, in terms of like, they're supposed to hold. So, because you mentioned in the beginning, you don't want to be too, you don't want to take too great of a risk because they're probably a good server. In my head, I'm like, what if you flip the script? What if you want to take more risk because you're supposed to lose that game regardless? Anyway, that's a whole other thing I'm trying to explore right now. But I will say this: if you are, because you are trying to get the first ball potentially down the middle deep, why does that change on the ground strokes? So even because things, once you return deep down the middle, they're most likely going to have a harder time opening the court just because angles are less. So even if they try and go cross, or they try and go, open up the court, it's probably not going to be too steep of an angle. But why can't you, for example, as soon as you hit your return +1, go right back down the middle? Because probably it's going to force them to then give you another shot back down the middle, or at least somewhere in box 2 or 3. In which case, now you're able to much more efficiently counterpunch or try and overwhelm with pace. Because for me, the way I'm trying to envision it, I'm like, if I'm returning down the middle, they're trying to make something happen, but I'm just giving them deep, holding them behind the baseline, giving it back to them deep down the middle. They're not going to be able to hit, very unlikely, really wide angles. And so once you've established this down the middle pattern, well, now you get a chance to try and counterpunch and dictate. Because because in my head, I'm like, as long as you're trying to hit sort of your 1 and 4 boxes, well, yeah, for sure. From that point on, they're attacking and they can open the court so much easier. So for me, I would say even at the more basic level, just deep down the middle, and then from there you can, if you're a stronger hitter, try and overwhelm with power. But something that I'm currently wrestling with.
Okay, so the last situation I want to go over is another important one: breakpoints. So let's really dissect how to win a break point. So in a break point, and let's do the most typical break point, 30-40 for your advantage. So you're on the ad side, and we'll break down the different scenarios. But if I'm returning, okay, so as a lefty playing a righty, they serve to my forehand, it's going to be a forehand cross court, because now I'm in a forehand cross court to their backhand. And a cross court return on a serve is the easiest one to do. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. Now, most people won't do that to a lefty. They won't serve to their forehand on the ad side because they know I've just got myself in the worst dynamic possible, unless my backhand's better, but let's assume it's worse. So then what most righties will do is they'll serve body or tee to my backhand. As I'm thinking about this now, I was doing this the other day, and it's not the best way. I was hitting deep down the middle. And if it's hard and deep down the middle, okay, fine, then I can rush them. And they actually, another thing that I got wrong was, and you mentioned it earlier, which apparently is not the best thing. Obviously, if their backhand way worse than their forehand, sure. But when you return the ball deep down the middle, it should actually go to people's forehands, because most people's backhands technique are, it's short and bunty. Most backhands, therefore they can handle being caught tight because it's just a little bunt back. But a forehand usually has a big loop. And so a ball that comes tight to your forehand, it's so different in terms of a swing, it yields a worse next ball. So they actually say that if you're going to return the ball deep down the middle, it should be to the person's forehand side. Now, it has to be hard. If it's a loopy deep down the middle of their forehand side, you've just teed them up. And so that's not good. And so what I was doing on the return with this guy, is I was doing a slice, because he's going to my backhand on these break points, and I'm slicing the ball down the middle. That's okay, but they're just going to whip a right hand forehand to my backhand, and I'm not in a good position. So as I think about it, I've got a few options as a lefty versus a righty, is what's ideal. I bat, and this is what Nadal does really well, and I'm so used to standing and trying to be an aggressive player that I stand close-ish to the baseline, like maybe one big step away from the baseline. And Nadal and many others stand far back. And they go, you're probably going to slice or kick to my backhand. So I'm going to stand far back and try to run around the serve to hit a forehand cross court. And that's what a lefty should do on break points, is how to get that forehand in play. Because forehand cross court, that's just statistically you're likely going to win. So I either got to stand far back and run around it and hit a cross court ball, or kind of like a volley, an inside out volley. You come to the net and you volley the backhand inside out wide.
Yep.
I should be stepping in and doing a backhand slice, but cutting it inside out. So it's a slice that cuts out to the backhand side that's low. And I can just chip it. I don't necessarily have to come in. I just got to chip it and angle it, not down the middle, angle it out wide. And on break point, as a lefty, you've got to try to get that lefty to forehand to righty backhand dynamic. If you can, you're going to win more break points. That's my thought on how best to win break points as a lefty. What about you for a righty?
I'll go the psychological route. Insofar as if you're up a break point and the player is serving, even though you might, and it happens, you might be nervous, quote unquote, and you might think, oh my goodness, I'm a point away from winning this game or breaking this opponent. But I guarantee you, your opponent who's down at break point is more nervous. I think, because they're thinking probably, depending on their level, but they're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm about to get broken. So they're going to be they're going to be more tight. They're going to be more, and again, this obviously varies player to player and the skill level, but typically I find, especially at the club level, people think they get tighter. So for me, psychologically, if you're actually the returner, you're up a break point, find a way to take control of the point. And I would actually say get more aggressive, control aggressive. So you actually look to swing out freely, breathe, and look to take control of that point, because chances are your opponent is going to be more likely tight. And not necessarily may want to go for, because psychologically they're not going to want to go for more, sort of winners. They're going to try and play it safe just to get in there, I would say. So I'd say just take control, be aggressive, and take control of that point. Again, you're free rolling. In terms of the right-handed player, is it different than any other point except for the psychology behind it?
Well, you want to try to do what statistically will help you win the point,
which is,
and so righty against a righty, and this is why Alcaraz does his kick out wide. I think a lot of righties will try to do some serve, either flat out wide or kick out wide to a righty's backhand. Now, what that righty is going to do is they're probably going to go backhand cross court to your backhand. So think through further the combination. If I was a right-handed player, I'm going to go out wide to their backhand. They're likely going to return it cross court or down the middle. Even better if it's down the middle, because that's into my forehand. But even if it's to my backhand side, I'm planning for it. And therefore, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to assume they're not going to try to go down the line on their backhand to my forehand. That would be ballsy. So, you're Ben Dugmore, maybe you're going for winners all day, right? But otherwise, out wide, assume they're going to go cross court and cheat over, and Tsitsipas does this ton. his inside in forehand. He's just hitting that inside in forehand. So serve out wide, inside in forehand, 1-2. Yeah, it's to the righty's forehand, but you push him out wide. You hit an aggressive shot to the open court. Sorry, that's the server. If you're the returner, you knowing they're going to go to your backhand, you don't want to go. You don't want to go down the line. Probably, actually, you got to go cross court. You got to go cross.
Yeah, I'm looking for a cross court.
Hopefully, they don't run around it. Hopefully, you get to their backhand, and then you're at least in the point. And then if you go to their backhand, what are they probably going to do? Their down break point. Are they going to go down the line on their backhand? Probably not. So you return a cross court to their backhand. They likely will go cross court to your backhand, and then you get to upgrade, and you go inside in with your forehand, and you go for it.
So this is what I was saying earlier. So that's where for me the psychology comes into play, because you just nailed it. If I'm turning, so assuming they're going to serve to my backhand, try and get me off the court, I'm going to try and go deep cross court, and they're down a break point. Chances are they're not going to go down the line, because again, they're down a break point. They're not going to take necessarily, most likely, they're not going to be the risk taker. And so knowing that, I would actually say, and I would advise you be the risk taker, because you're free rolling at this point. So yes, 100%. So they probably go back cross court. Now you look for that inside out, either inside out or inside in forehand, and then potentially follow the ball into the net, get there. But yeah, try and convert that cross court deep return into a position where you can look for that forehand yourself.
All right. It's getting late where I am at, and I got a freaking early ass
IBM hit with guy from Africa,
which means I got to get up at like 4 and blah. So that's it. Training over.
Quick question as we were wrapping up: who's your favorite to win the ATP WTA for Australian Open? Quick.
I will say, on the women's side, I think Sabalenka or Coco Gauff. I'm on the women's side, and on the men's side, don't think Sinner is just going to repeat and do it. I don't think Djokovic is going to do it.
You don't think so, even with Murray?
I don't. I know I don't. I would love for Zverev to get a major. I would love for him to get a major. I think it's unbelievable how quickly he's come back to being number 2 in the world after that horrific ankle injury. Yeah. It has not been that long since that thing. And that is so bad. And I just think it's unbelievable. So I'd love to see him win or Alcaraz. Those two.
And I have Zverev in my fantasy, so I really hope he wins. But I'm actually going to go with an underdog, and I'm going to say Rublev. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Dude, he might not even get past the first round. He's got a really tough first round.
I know. I just saw an interview with Rublev. He was talking about how last year he had many.
He's playing the new Wonder Kid. He's playing Fonseca first round.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I read an interview that he's battling some mental health stuff, but he claims that he's over it. He claims that he's off the whatever medication he's taking.
If I had to pick someone who would appear to be an underdog who would win it, it would be Fritz.
Okay.
I think he doesn't get the results, but apparently his game and his rating of how well he's been playing the last little while has been really good.
I just really want it for Rublev. I just really want him to win.
Yeah.
The guy has made it to 7, 8 quarterfinals in the Grand Slam and hasn't, I think it's 7 or 8 of them.
Never gone past it.
I feel bad for the guy. All right.
That's the pod.